How many years you been here? 11 years. This is Dr. Andy's favorite day. And it's one of his favorite days. And David Allen, he uses that. This is not the only time you'll hear him. He uses that line often.
Hey, you know, I need to go to a church and speak on the week of First Responder Week. I started using that.
The thought of you speaking in the church,
That's pretty bad.
that scares me a little bit. That's okay.
Hey, man, we put snakes up.
Okay. That's good.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're saying this is really not his actual.
Well, I don't know. He says that morning. I mean, I'm not sure, you know. I'm thinking he may use it to try to get money.
Really?
Oh, that's year round.
That's it. But actually, it is one of.
Surely not, I'm
Yes, I'm
shocked.
thinking, it is one of my favorite days of the year though, because we can all sit at the table and actually act like civil human beings, and not many counties can put both groups together and they act like, and hey, can I say one more thing real quick? Let me tell you how good a place Randolph County is to work, okay? And we want to keep it that way. We have one of my favorite all-time people that worked here forever. And he retired and he come back. Marty, I have to say welcome back, Marty Trotter. I mean, we lost a great finance officer, and when I first came on this board, I think Marty had just left. He was the finance officer. And so you know what, when you lose a good one and you get one just as good back, you can't go wrong there. But I'm glad to see you across the table. But anyway, I guess I'll turn it over to you.
All right, county commissioners, do y'all need to do anything to get us into
We'll
a
call
meeting?
this is a meeting for us, so we'll call our meeting together, just say, as we do every year, thanks for having us, setting this up in this very informal process. I think it's more of a relaxing process, and I was just thinking, coming down here this afternoon, this is sort of the unofficial kickoff to our budget season. And it's still, the adoption is still 5.5 months away or so, but this is sort of a kickoff to that process for us. You're the first one to make a presentation and kind of tell us what your needs are for the next year. So it's sort of an event for us. I would just add to Gary's comments, it's good to have Marty back, and to always keep that relationship, the sequence there that we've known, people we know, work with, know they tell us the right things, honest with us, straightforward. That's a big thing for all of us as we go forward in this board and work with you for a long time. And appreciate what you do as superintendent of our county school, Dr. King. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate y'all coming. You know, one of the things I wrote down, this is the 11th time we've had this meeting, and I'm very proud of this meeting, and you know, I told leadership, I remember how I said it today when we were meeting, when it's not a big deal for me, that's going to be an issue, because it is a big deal for me to have this meeting. This is the kickoff to our budget session, or budget season. It's very important to me. A lot of why it's very important to me is some of my past experiences. Chance to sit in a room and very informally and have commissioners and board members in the room, and what may transpire in the next hour and a half. I know we won't make any decisions today, but I don't think you can make good decisions if we're not far out in front of giving you information. So, commissioners, I do look at you guys as friends of our school system. And I know that every decision you make is not going to be, it can't always be exactly what we ask for. But there's always reasons for why decisions are made, and you have been very supportive of us. Mr. Massey, I know you're in your interim role now, but I've worked with you now for 11 years. Your staff's here. I appreciate you guys always being very responsive to the needs of our school system. I want to just take a moment and thank our board. We have Mr. Gary Cook here. Ms. Farlow may join us later. Vice Chair, Mr. Cook's our chair. Tracy Bowles, Philip Lanier, Shannon Whitaker, Mike Sink, and I'm missing somebody, Fred Burgess is down there. So our board, we've had a lot of continuity on our board, and I'm very proud of that. It tells you something about staff and what's happening at the school level and central service level with continuity. And I want to take a moment and introduce my staff, and we've got a lot of staff over here. I want to just introduce the leadership team. Kathy Waddell, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, former very successful principal in our school system. Andrea Foxworth, very successful principal. Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Edwina Ashworth, Executive Director for Student Services, Administrative Services, and does our athletics, does driver's education, very successful principal. Marty Trotter, we've mentioned as well, Finance Officer, glad to have him back. I did not work with Marty as Finance Officer, but I worked with Marty as a Assistant Superintendent. Dale Brinkley headed up our technology for years here, and has been Executive Director for Operations, and then Larry Chilton, Executive Director for Maintenance, Facilities, and Transportation. And obviously, Larry and Dale and I've had some fun this afternoon with some of the weather forecasts, but I just feel really good about these individuals and where we are. All of them are very connected to our school system, have been with us for a long time. Also, Beverly Fowler is my executive assistant's been here well before my time, and then our new Public Information Officer, Amber Ward. But, you know, I told somebody in Sir Pizza about 4 or 5 years ago, they came up to me and they asked me about a principal hire we were going to make in one of our schools. And I said, well, here's what I'll tell you. I'm not going to talk anybody into going to a job. I said, they're going to have to really want that job. And as I feel strongly about that, when I say that as I introduced Ms. Ward, she was with us during the pandemic on a special team we had, helping us do a contact tracing and all that. But Ms. Ward has ties, just like the rest of this leadership team, to our school system, and so I'm very excited to have her in our Public Information Office. So, leading that, and so what is the goal for today? The goal today is to have some conversation about our local budget request. Not, you know, obviously we get state money, but really the most say we have is in our local budget, and talking to you as you're connected to us. Answer any questions you have, and probably the biggest thing to me is when today's over, take another step. And you know, yeah, it's 11 years, but 11 years, there's many more years out there that we've got to keep getting better and keep developing relationships. So take another step to build a positive relationship with our board and with our county commissioners based on trust and transparency. That's huge to me. That's huge to me. The relationship piece. I was asked today at High Point University, when you interview people, what are you looking for? Well, these teachers going out to teach starting tomorrow. I think it's our first day. And I get a chance to go talk to them today before they start student teaching, and some of the kids said, what do you look for in interviews? And you know, it's not my place to say whether you know the content or not. The university is certifying you to know the content. They're going to certify that with the state. My issue always in interviews was, how do I see the person interacting with others? How do I see, that's when I'm talking about that trust and transparency and that relationship. How do I see our school system interacting with you, and do I believe we have room for improvement? Yes, I do. 11 years does not make 20 years. 20 years does not make 30 years, but trust and transparency is huge. And so that's part of the reason, Mr. Fry, we're doing this. But I also know that I'm fortunate, unlike some other people. I don't make calls and take 3 or 4 days for commissioners to call me back. I don't make calls and take 3 or 4 days for board members to call me back. In fact, we've had very good connection with our legislators, and I feel fortunate. So I'm thrilled you're here today. It's exciting to me that you guys are all in this room together. I've obviously been in an experience in my past where that wasn't the case. And so just know that I value that. So I want to start today. I'm going to talk about several things today, but let me just give you a little overview of when we start talking about budgets. What are the themes for the budget process? Well, first thing is try to bring the dollar figure from one year to the next down if we can, as far as our request. And if we can't, try to keep it in a reasonable range or a similar range compared to other years. That's one thing. Another thing is be consistent. If you watch what happens, we're not on a shopping spree. If I ask you for something for our school system and you don't give it to us, and the next year you don't see it, then if I'm a commissioner, I'm thinking, well, what was Gainey really doing? Was he just throwing something at the wall to see if it would stick? Did the school system really need that? Yeah, we needed that 1% supplement increase that we started on in 16, 17. We worked really hard for that, didn't we, Mr. Cook? It took us several years, but that was the first time we moved the supplement since 2007. Very proud of it. It took us a while. It took us several years of 0.25% increase, but we kept bringing it back because it was important to our employees, it was important to our staff, important to our school system. So being consistent, and then at the end, this is where I think we're missing a lot, in public leadership. Where's the word, where's the two words, thank you? Does thank you appear at the end if we get increased funding, like the $1.428 million increase we got for this school year? Where's the thank you? Is it there? Or what if it's tough budget times and you maintain our funding level and say, Stephen, we can't do it? Just like I remember a couple of years before we moved the supplement the first time, I was on the front steps of the courthouse after the budget was finished, and I had a commissioner come up to me and put their arm around me and said, we didn't get the supplement moving, but I know we've got to, and we're gonna get to work on that. Well, ironically, we got to work on it and it started moving. So where's the thank you? Is it maintaining funding? Is there a thank you for that? Or do we have the resolve to say thank you in a very tough budget time when maybe we might take some small budget cuts? I think thank you is huge in the budget process, and sometimes that gets lost. So those are the three things: trying to stay reasonable, similar range, if we can't bring it down. Try to stay consistent and not forgetting to say thank you at the end of this process. So I want to start and give you a budget sheet. I'm going to give a half on Kathy, send them around. I'll give everybody, I know we've got 25, so I'm sorry to everybody out there, but I'll try to talk slow so you know what's on there, okay? And I can get you a sheet if we don't have enough to go around. So, I'll let it go around and then I'll kind of. So we're going to talk about our local budget request. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things we've done in this school system, and there's a lot of favorite things. But it's the 9-year plan. We'll hit that in a little while. But guys, it's not the 9-year plan anymore. Because this is year 10 since that plan started. It could be called the 18-year plan, or it can just be called the plan. My staff's probably not really sure what to call it now, because we mentioned it several times last week. But I want to walk you through this budget sheet I just gave you, and just make you aware of what it is. So remember, we have two sides of the house: current expense and capital outlay. So what sometimes people don't value, and Mr. Fry, Mr. Allen, we talked about this again the other day, we're always going to have continuation costs. That's always going to be there in our current expense. We have 4 current expense requests, and we have no capital outlay requests, and I'll get to that and explain those a little more detail. But what I appreciate about our commissioners is that you understand that if we don't get continuation costs funded, anything else you do, we're going to have a budget cut. Because if you look at our continuation costs, we're asking for $732,000. And that's a pretty, $732,200. Now, put it in perspective, for 23-24, continuation cost was $711,000. For 22-23, it was $828,000. So it kind of fluctuates based on what's going on at state level. So when you look at the first thing, you've got matching insurance increase. Now, the first 3 are for our 195 locally paid employees, which a lot of them are with Larry Chilton. Maintenance and facilities, the state gives us no money for those guys. And nobody has a better group than we do. There may be somebody who can say they have as good a group. No one has a better group. So those first 3 items, matching insurance, matching retirement, and legislative salary increase, those are for those 195 locally paid employees. We don't have any locally paid teachers. We don't have any locally paid assistant principals. When I came here, we had 10 locally paid teachers in 13-14, and we had 3 or 4 locally paid assistant principals, and we got all that moved to state. So when you look at matching insurance, we're projecting a 7% increase, $91,000. When you look at matching retirement increase, we're looking at 6%, $180,000. And the projected legislative salary increase, we're projecting at 4% based on what we're seeing, $186,000. So that starts out, that's where we start making up, 91, 180, 186. Now we're kind of climbing into that $132,200. Now, here we go with the charter school growth money. We project to lose another 100 kids next year to charter schools. That's about $148,200. Now, I'm going to give you a figure here. $1,482. So it fluctuates some, but this year, 23-24, Whenever we lose a child to a charter school, we lose $1,482 in local money. That's basically where we're resting for this year. Now, here's something that slid under the radar last year, or for this year, people don't know, or people haven't talked about. Prior to this year, if a kid went to one of the two state virtual charters, we only lost $790,000 per child. One of the virtuals, called North Carolina Virtual Academy, has 19 of our kids. The other one, North Carolina Cyber Academy, has 23 of our kids. Prior to 23-24, we only lost $790. Nowhere near what we did to the brick and mortar. They don't have a brick and mortar school. But when the budget came out this year, the legislator said no more of that, same amount for everyone. So now the virtual charters are getting the same amount as brick and mortar. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I didn't make that decision. But here's what I'll tell you. Right here, as of the end of December, and this can change a little bit, but it's pretty solid. That's how much money in local money we've lost to charter schools this year. Now, I think back to my first year, one of my really favorite people, Mr. Kemp, was in here, and he said, "Stephen, explain to me why you're asking for charter school growth money." So here's another conversation that doesn't happen. I get it. If Stephen Gainey doesn't come to Randolph County School System, his superintendent shouldn't get money for Stephen Gainey. But it's not one for one. And I've told people this, and there's two reasons we're asking for charter school growth money. When we lose about 24 kids, the state pulls the position back from us. Andre deals with it. But those 24 kids could come from 24 different classrooms or 24 different schools. So which school or which class is the unlucky one to lose the kid? This is just the math of it. This is not a negative towards charter schools. This is just how it works. There's a budget cut. We have to absorb it. Andrea can't call Principal X and say, well, it's your unlucky year. You're losing a classroom teacher because we just lost 24 kids. Another reason why we need charter school growth money to help us with this is when a kid is private school or homeschool and they wake up one day and their parents say, we're going to send you to a charter school, and they have one of our addresses. Remember, every kid in Randolph County either has an address with Ashburn City or Randolph County School System. So mom and dad decide, well, we're going to send you to a charter school. And their private homeschool would have our address. On their way, they come by and get a student amount of state money, that amount of local money this year, on their way. And we never had it to begin with for a child. So there's another budget cut. So I'm pretty daggone proud of when we do continuation costs, and we put charter school growth money in there, that you guys have responded. Because they're here, we got one charter school in our county. They are here. They have 1,226 of our kids. They are here. But there's a money piece back behind the scenes. That's not their fault, it's not our fault. But it's a real issue. It's a real issue. So, to give you another little piece that when you start thinking about this right now, last time I looked, that's how much local money has gone to the regular charter school in this county. One, you are a charter. Last year it's 1.671 million. So it's going up. They're growing. Got it. Here's something you may not know. We have 242 students going to regular charters in other counties that are our kids. From us, not Ashburn City. I don't know what their number is. So the amount of Randolph County tax dollars that are going to other counties is that. Our Randolph County tax dollars, local tax dollars, $358,644 is going out the door, over the county lines. It's a little bit less than last year. Last year, this time it was $375,000. But it still shows you this money flow. Those 42 kids that are going to the virtual charters for the state of North Carolina, have taken $62,244 with them to the virtual charter. So I'm pretty proud of the conversation we have here about charter school growth money, because it's real, and it has nothing to do with whether you like school choice or not. It has everything to do with the economics of the school system, the one getting the money and the one losing the money. A teacher position last year was worth about, average cost of a teacher position was $67,000 when you take an average salary, benefits and all. So we're probably easily well north of 70 now. But they're working and benefits are going up. So there's your charter school growth money. Our next thing you've got your insurance. A lot of people don't know how that comes about. The state gives us no money for insurance premiums, none. Thank goodness you support us, because we pay equivalent of about, right now, our insurance premiums are right about, last I looked, there it is, 1.297,538. That's how much we pay in insurance premiums. One of those is Sheena Creech is back there. Kathy's staff has worked tirelessly protecting us, and Michael Suggs in that group. We have so much stuff going on in technology and so much security we're having to provide. We have a cyber liability policy for $25,000. And oh, by the way, because of Sheena, and I guess Nan was involved back, and Dale, you were involved back then, in 15, 16, we opened it on our own, probably before a lot of school systems did, to protect us. But what you don't know, one of those insurance policy, if we don't do everything they tell us we have to do for safeguards, we have something go wrong, that insurance policy is not worth anything. So when we've had to go back and reset passwords and have reset passwords and all, and email addresses and all, that's part of our security. But I want to make this point that our insurance premiums, we've held in pretty good there. It's gone up about $66,000 from where we were last year. But we have to use the money we get from you for that. And then the last thing, so our insurance premiums, we're thinking $69,000, 5% increase. And then energy, fuel, water, garbage, that's our utilities, we're looking at around $68,000 increase. So, you know, I don't want to minimize anything else on this board or on this piece of paper. But what I do appreciate, and I told somebody the other night on the phone, on the radio at a ball game, I asked at halftime to talk to them. And one of the things that really sticks with me, and when it's all over for me one day, I'm going to say, of everything I got to do, both of you groups of elected officials let me be me. And there's some things that I'm very proud of. Having conversations about charter school funding and how it really looks, and not pointing the finger and saying something's wrong down there. There's nothing wrong. It has nothing to do with who's right and who's wrong. Talking about what's the reality behind insurance. Talking about what's the reality behind taking care of locally paid employees. So, but really, you understanding how important this continuation cost is makes me feel good, because, again, you do, maybe do other three things and don't do continuation costs. Well, Marty and I are going to be miserable for months looking for $732,200. But we know the ball can't start rolling for 24-25 until $732,200 is found or cut out of other areas. So the next budget request is all about being a teammate. So last year this time I talked to you about our school resource officers. Now, I'm going to take our 4 elementary SROs out of the picture. And we did a separate agreement with them. And we started them at market value, $59,500 per officer. We said, let's don't compound this problem. But here's the reality of our 13 high school and middle school SROs. For over 10 years, way past 10 years, because it was the whole time I was here until this year, and it was before my time, we paid those 13 high school, middle school SROs, because we don't pay for the one at early college. We paid that much per officer. Yet, we dug in, and we found, and this is what we got back when we started with the elementary SROs, there's your market value. So, take the difference, multiply times 13, we couldn't make that up overnight. So you remember last year I came to you with $52,000 for school resource officers, and it was to start moving towards market value. So we got the $4,000 per officer for the current year, 23-24, and so now we're asking for $52,000 more for 24-25 to get them to this. Now, this year we're at 46,692. We want to get 24-25 to that dollar figure and keep moving to the 59. Because right now, we are $166,504 short on market value for those 13 officers. And, you know, I think every leader wants what they want for their organization. And I would say if you got somebody in that seat that doesn't want that, you got the wrong person. But at some point, we've got all these organizations and all these groups. I go to county commissioner meetings and I try to learn about this county. And I see what the sheriff's department does. I see what Ashburn City does. I see what Randolph Community College does. I see all these different organizations. And at some point, you better be a teammate with everybody else in the community. And this is all about being a better teammate. Can we keep moving this up? We started here, we're at 46,692 and 23-24. 24-25, we want to get here, and we want to get here. $4,000 a pop.
Are they aware we're doing that?
What's that?
Are they aware of that we're doing
They made it, yes, because when we got last year to get it to the 46 for this current year, we sent an addendum to the MOU, and it took the total MOU's value from $555,000 to $607,000. So, yes.
that? Any
Sheriff,
response or,
haven't,
like,
just, we
not the magic words?
got it back. And,
Thank you.
But this is all about being a teammate, and so that's why that one is there. Next item is, as I look out there, you know, when I was a high school principal, we had open house. And one night I was walking down Jim Architect, and I love my staff, I love my kids, I love my parents. And we were going to go into the gym, and all I would do was about 5 minutes, I'd say hello, say a couple things, because they wanted to come see the teachers. They didn't want to see me. I was walking behind these two guys, and I heard one of them say to the other, well, let's go into the gym and hear Danny see how great the staff is, and then we'll go meet. And I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to take that. We work every day. You're daggone right my staff's good, sir, and there's great people all over this school. And there's great people all over this school system. And that's what the next request is about. We've got great people all over this school system, and we've got a challenge. We've got a real challenge coming. We have the industry coming, and we better be competitive. Because you better believe they know how talented our people are. I lived it when we were right next to the Research Triangle. I lived it. I watched our teachers when companies would come. Teachers, Mr. Allen, we were talking about writing manuals, and you know, you've got people in the science areas, you've got people in the business areas. People are going to learn how good our people are, and we better be ready to be competitive. So the next request, you probably doesn't surprise you, is a across the board 1% supplement increase for all employees, and the cost is a lot. But the cost, it's almost like the growth pieces we have coming that we'll talk about. It's a risk. It's more of a risk not to do this than anything, because can we get to where some of these companies are paying? Probably not. But we've got to show effort. We've got to keep putting that effort out in front of our employees. So this is $1.2 million. It would take teachers from 6 to 7. It would take our principals all up. We'd now be paying principals a percentage of 8% elementary, 10.5% middle school, and 13% for high school. So I mentioned earlier, we moved our supplement in 2016-17 for the first time. And we got that done. We did we did a 1 point on it, and Mr. Fry went, that was a big task. Because we didn't have a whole lot of money in the county then, did we? It was a lot of things, and I was very proud of that, and still proud of that. But we've got a lot of, if we want to retain our current people and attract new ones, we're gonna have to get moving, because just to the north of us, we have a teacher supplement of 10 to 12.5, which is in Alamance. Guilford's is 13 to 19.75. Ashburn Cities is 7.5 bachelor, 8.5 master's level teachers. So we need to get moving, and so that's what this request is about taking care of our employees, and so I'd be wrong not to be bringing this, and I can tell you this, when you start talking about consistency with budget requests, I can tell you this is gonna be consistent for a while out there, because we've got, I mean, I sit and talk to Larry and hear him talk about wastewater, and I'm blown away. I'm blown away with what, you know, you've got curriculum people here that can talk to you about anything, any day of the week. Any day of the week, and if they want to relate it back to being the principal, they can do it. And relate it to the school level. We've got HR staff, what's going on, we're running a business. We're running a business. With a total budget this year of $193.3 million. You can't run that without the best. And we're gonna keep going after the best and keep trying to retain the best. So there's gonna be one of my requests, 1.2 million to move every supplement system up 1%.
You know, I've talked about gaming, a bunch of us have, you know, we're talking about the influx of businesses and the growth and all. You know, we've already discussed about the building of schools and all, but like you said, you can build schools, but you ain't got teachers in to teach what it is to build.
And that's, Mr. Boyles, to your point, every time somebody talks to me about, interview in my office several weeks ago about growth, and the interview at Fox 8 the next week, we talk about buildings for a little while. We talk about, you know, it's exciting, but before the conversation's over, it's about where you're gonna get staff. Where are we gonna get staff? And what we need is, we got to keep moving this forward, because we also need staff. You know, we need to change this dynamic in this state and in this country, because school systems need staff. And we need to change the dynamic. We need to be on the front end of this. There's not a reason for you to get 30 years and stop. There is a reason for you to keep going, and this is going to be critical to our employees and to our employees' families. To this day, I'm still very frustrated with the principal salary schedule North Carolina put in place about 6 or 7 years ago. I will remain frustrated with it, because I don't think it's good for families. I mean, let's don't talk about performance. Let's talk about families, because that's a big piece of this too. So that's our request for supplements, and just know that it will continue to be a consistent request with to continue to move it forward. So,
Do they know some stuff, I guess it went public, I'm not sure if it went public or not, but when you mentioned the salary scale of principals, just then, I mean.
well, do they know, so
Do
salary
they know
schedule?
what actually happens, like happened in Randolph County, for instance? Can I say it?
There's a swing of about $7,000. There's a swing of about $7,000. There's three columns, and a principal could swing from one column to the next, and it could be it could be 7,000, or they could go from one end of the spectrum to the other and lose 14,000 at one time. And that's not,
Basically what happened, we had 5 or 4?
I don't remember.
Huh?
I don't remember.
Am I talking out loud? It doesn't matter to me, really, it's just the truth. Okay, so basically, this is what your state does for you, okay? On that end. Your principal's salary is based on that school grade, am I correct?
School, growth
Growth in that.
and,
So, we had, I'm gonna say four, I think it's four schools, I could be wrong. But, basically, really good principals, I would put those principals against anybody. And those schools are great schools, but they're in a location where maybe when that neighbor moves out, somebody else moves in. In other words, you, when 10 people move out, maybe you get 8 different neighbors that wasn't like what left, okay? That's the way to put it. So you lose, it's hard to teach everybody and keep your grade up. So they were doing the best they could, but when you're in the public school, you have to deal with the cards you're dealt, okay? And so we were dealing with the cards we dealt like we have to do. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. That's what public school is, okay? That's why public school, some people hate it, or some people in Raleigh tend to want to get rid of it and put us the other way. But in the real world, at the end of the day, there's always going to be that group of people that could be lost if it wasn't for public school, and that's our job. And so anyway, because we fell into, those principals fell into schools where the growth and the grade wasn't just right. We have 4 good principals going to lose over $6,000 each salary at one time. So that's a hit for anybody. Wasn't a thing in the world they did wrong. It's just because the cards they were dealt. Demographics. And so, you know, this board, for 1 year, agreed to find a way to keep them. But, I guess hold them on. But that's kind of what goes on. I don't know if you guys knew that, maybe if I'm wrong, but that's what goes on behind closed doors sometimes, that you have to, that's the public school. I mean, we get caught, not everything is, you get thrown a lot of curveballs. And you know what, when it comes to throwing, I think he's gonna mention the curveball here in just a minute. When you get those curveballs thrown your way, it's like, there's nobody in Raleigh, they're clueless on those curveballs, basically. Our legislators included, they're not familiar. Now, they might tell you we're gonna work on it, but you know what? There's so many people down there that you gotta go up against, it's hard to fix some of these problems. But go ahead, I just like to be open about it.
so, and that salary schedule is unlike anything I've seen that I can recall in my 31 years is, you know, I don't know what you do in a family when you're taking a swing from making this level 1 year and then also the 14,000 the next. Boy, that's a huge cut. $7,000 cut's a huge one. And I spoke out publicly about it 6 years ago. And that's one of the examples of what we've got to keep pushing from our end with our principals, our teachers, our classified staff. You guys were great. You helped us get our classified staff supplements up last year, but we've got to keep moving because we've now gotten a good situation with that. But we got to keep it moving. We can't fall behind on that. So the last current expense request we have is, I'll give you a couple numbers here. I'm just going to round them off for you to complete numbers. So these 3 numbers are in many ways unexpected numbers. So you're sitting, working on your budget, and all of a sudden, this number pops up unexpected, or this number pops up, or this one pops up. Now this one is only through the first half of this school year. That's why it's small. These are the last 3 years of special contract transportation bills that came our way. Now, Mr. Allen, Mr. Fry, we were talking the other day, our job is to take care of students and children. This contract transportation may involve homeless transportation, PC transportation, foster child transportation. We have a program, social emotional learning program at New Market for elementary students. And if a child goes to that program, we wind up providing transportation. But very little of it's that program. That's a heavy lift to a budget, especially when you're not sure where it ends in a year. Like, look at this, this is last year. Wendy Anderson had that hit her budget. Now, the reason I don't have 2021 and years of the pandemic is because it fell off, because of a lot of things that were going on in the pandemic. But this is not a new problem. So here's, I'll give you a figure, $417,000. That's what the state increased our state transportation money by 17-18 compared to 13-14. That looks pretty good, because you think, okay, that might be some help towards the contract transportation issue that we were dealing with way back. This is not a new issue. We've been saying a long time transportation formula is not good. So when they gave us that much more money over these 4 years, we spent this much more money over those same 4 years in additional local money to make our transportation budget go. So we didn't get on top of things by $417,000. We simply just got the extra, and it didn't do anything but cover the extra additional money we spent. So then you go to contract transportation, same window of time. If you want to know where that extra money went, that was the increase this school system had over that same window of time. So you can see how the state's increase of 417 was negated by contract transportation. So this is our job. Our job is to get children to school. And so, but we have a formula that we don't think is good, and many people don't think is good. And we drive miles just like Charlotte Mecklenburg. We just don't have, the formula they use is not as conducive to us in a rural system as it might be in a system where there's the efficiency rating, I would just say, just isn't conducive to us with the spaces, the large space we drive. So I say this to you because what this request is can you help us mitigate this a little bit and start down this path of taking some local money and helping put towards this contract transportation bill. No, $100,000 doesn't solve $432,000 or $786,000. I'll guarantee you that's going to be $400,000 40 years old. Again, this number was through the end of December. But if we can start mitigating a little bit with some local monies, that will be helpful. So that is, Mr. Cook, we talked about this. We talked about this for several years. But you can see this is not a new problem. 13, 14, 17, 18, state gave us that much money, much more money. But we spent that much more out of local, not state transportation dollars in that same window.
And this is something that I personally have hammered to him. Dr. Gainey, over and over and over, he's talked about transportation. Well, I mean, there again, we're public school. They gotta come to our school system, and you gotta find a way to make it work, and all that money. And I don't know how many times I've talked, but it's one of those things that we keep picking up the bill and kind of get sidetracked. No one wants, they expect you to do it, but it's almost like there's no accountability for that part of it. Shut up, I'm telling you. I mean, in my opinion, that's just straight, but he's exactly right. I mean, you know what? We're responsible. Those kids live in Randolph County, so we have to educate them. So that's a big deal. That'd be a big deal to start.
Mr. Fry, you asked me the other day, we were talking, and you said, do we get any extra money for this? Okay? And so here's the extra money we got in 22-23. We got that from the state. And it was designated for homeless, transportation, homeless students, and for foster students. Okay? That was state money. Now, you can look right here, $52,000 is not even a third of the 167. But what's interesting about that $52,000 is the program code from the state is nowhere to be found this year in the chart of accounts, nor is that 52,000. And so, here's another one. So this year, we got 88,000 for homeless transportation. And it's there, but it's coded to this ESSER money, which the final ESSER money expires September 30, 2024, 9 months from now. So we've already seen this go away. It would have been nice had this added to that amount. That would have been, and then if we could get this in our local, now we're really beginning to make some dents. This goes away, Marty can't find the program code for that. And this is money that's essentially going away at the end of September. So that right there is on this list as a request to help us start mitigating this issue. We have been working on it, and Larry's been involved in his new role. I guess November 20th, I think, Larry, somewhere around there, when he came to his new role, working directly with transportation, Wendy Anderson. We have a great transportation department, great transportation director, but there's only so much you can do when some of these unknown costs come to you. So, so that's our current expense requests. Capital outlay, we don't have a request this year. That is for our 9-year, or what I call just our, maybe it's our 18-year plan now, because we're now in year 10, and I'm gonna talk about that in a little while. You guys have given us $950,000 in recurring money. I want to talk about that a little bit separate in a few minutes, because I want to make sure the great work the commissioners have done and board members have done towards that 9-year plan is noted. But we're not asking for any additional money in capital outlay. This is not capital outlay. We still, remember, we get the ADM capital outlay, and we would get any capital outlay money with bonds if we built new schools. So that's that special. People don't realize that money didn't even exist in 13-14. That was the commissioners at that time with the board created that fund. And it started at $250, then it went to $750 the next year. We went 3 years, then it went to $850, and then 22-23 you got us to $950. That's unheard of. That's really unheard of. That's one of those moments that when it's 9:30 and everybody's gone home, I'm sitting in my office, and I think about things that have happened. That's unheard of. That's teamwork right there. So out the door, our total request for the 24-25 school year, it's not bringing it down from last year, but it is keeping it in a similar range, and here's why. $2,071,080. Probably not many of us in the room remember what that was. That was our total request for 14-15. So 10 years later, this is the 11th budget I'll be involved in. That was my first budget I was involved in. 10 years later, we've just gotten back to that amount. Now we didn't, that was a different day. We know that, Mr. Fry, we know that. It's a different day. The resources were really limited. I don't know where resources are now, but I know we were limited then. So we didn't get to that dollar figure. But when I talk about trying to stay in a reasonable range, there's 10 years between these two amounts. So that is our request. It is actually all current expense this year. Just like last year, the $1.428 million was all current expense. Any questions you have with any of those 4 items before I step into another area? Anything? All right, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to take a moment, and this may be just, this is a moment of high pleasure. Maybe it's a matter of bragging on the great work by you guys and our board. I don't know what you might call it. I know this, I had somebody in my office back in September, and I was talking about this, and they said, and they've been a commissioner in another county, and they said, can I have a copy of that? And they were very happy with this plan, and they wanted to share it. Of course, it's out on the web, so it's there for anybody who wants to see it. This is the most updated, 9-year plan, and I would say now we can call it the 18-year plan, or we can just call it the facility upgrade repair plan. I don't know what we want to call it. I think that's what we've got it labeled as now, right? Because we don't have an 18-year on there. So, just want to bring you up to speed on that, of this plan a little bit, where we are, and then want to talk about the future a little bit. So this plan, what you see in there is you see a cost, you see 100%, a percentage column of how much we've done on the project, if we've gotten to that. So there's a history here. I mentioned the history. In 14-15, we asked the commissioners for $736,080 for the 14-15 budget. But we felt like if we put $450 from our budget, our ADM money in, plus that, we could make this plane go. I remember like it was yesterday at the budget meeting in the courthouse in June. The commissioners kept the budget going. Mr. Fry, maybe I misread it that night, but I was sitting with Marty, and I think Todd Lowe was beside me, and you guys wouldn't close the budget, and I thought you were looking for money for our 9-year plan, and I'm going to always assume that's why it stayed open. You found $250 that night, and we walked out of there with $250,000. So the first year of the plan, we had $700,000, and this is what's really remarkable about this plan. During that first year, 14-15, commissioners kept working, and they added $500,000 to their $750. So by the next year, starting years 2 through 9, we have $1.2 million per year. So now we're growing. So this gives us a total of $10,300,000 towards the plan. Now, if you take this plan and you add the first 9 years, take every year's total, and you add the first 9 years, this is what the first 9 years cost. Mr. Fry, you may remember this. I stood at the podium and I said, okay, so we got 10.3 million. Total plan cost $11,689,000. There's a difference of that. And I said, we're going to be teammates. That's our skin in the game. You remember that? So we started out down this road with us having to come up with that. But I want to make sure everybody that sees any of this, and everybody in this room knows, is that's not how it ended. In year 6, commissioners gave us $100,000 more recurring. You got to save $50. So if you take year 6, 7, 8, 9, there's $400,000. Now we're down to a deficit of. And then year 9, you gave us another $100,000. So now we're down to we tried to use what you guys gave us, and you didn't quit trying to help us. And that'll be one of the things that I remember for a long time after this is over for me. At a time when the county didn't have a lot of resources we could do. We had job loss, we had a lot of things. Over the first 9 years of this plan, this wound up being the real deficit, Mr. Fry, right here. And a lot of people have lost sight of that because so many things are going on. But I won't lose sight of that. You took a deficit down by $500,000 just by trying to help us. So a lot of people don't know what this 9-year plan's done. Well, some highlights. windows, doors, roofs, HVAC, auditorium lights, stadium lights. We have no more wood bleachers in our high school stadiums. $1,064,000 is what it took to fix 3 high school stadiums. That's huge. That is huge. And it was all done in a window of time well before all this economic development started. It's going to be there for years to come, hopefully, and provide some more resources. So, you know, when I started today, I said, we're going to keep it in a similar range. We're going to be consistent. And we're going to say thank you. So the reason why this is on the list tonight is this is a big thank you for this superintendent and you guys. Our board was involved. I don't know what kind of conversations went on that I wasn't involved in and I didn't need to be involved in. But I heard during the 14-15 school year, I kept hearing that plan's getting traction. And it did. We got $500,000. We asked for $736,000. Y'all came up with $750,000. So that's huge. So I don't know how much the public knows. I know we've got some new board members. But you talking, Larry, I may be wrong because you know it better than I do. But without that plan, we'd be in serious trouble. We'd have roof leaking. We'd have doors that weren't secured. We'd have windows that had outlasted their time of installation. We'd be in a mess. Really, we revised the plan because I had some staff that saw something happening, and I credit them because I still think about that. Back in those days, Larry, you and Marty and Randy were working, and we had the chillers go out at Easter in May of 18. We had no HVAC in the plan. Remember that, Larry? Then we got that fixed, $120,000, and here came the chiller. That was exam week, and in July of 18, school's getting ready to start in Ramon High School. Chillers were out, $111,000. And I don't know if we came in here in January of 19 and presented a revised plan. And there again, success of this plan, I was a little nervous. Because we got the 750 set in there. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen now? Here we are, we've done 5 years, we're going to bring this plan in, and we're going to start changing a little bit. What's going to happen? We rolled on, we put HVAC all throughout that plan, and we're better off for it now. The first year in that plan, it was Farmer, Ramsar, Eastern, and Trinity got to do HVAC. One point, we were only going to put poles up at Trinity High School at the football stadium. You guys worked with us. We delayed it a year. We put poles and lights up. It's pretty neat. We put lights up at Eastern Randolph. I can't remember if it's baseball or softball. I think it's baseball. We replaced lights there. We've done a lot of things, but, you know, rolling those wood bleachers off those visitor side of Eastern and Trinity were big days. And that was huge liability waiting to happen. So I just say that to you. Probably the reason I want to bring that to you today is I don't want anybody to ever lose sight of that 9-year plan, because it's now 18 years. And I hope it goes on past 18. I hope somebody at some point feels like it needs to be a 50-year plan, because I'm pretty daggone proud of that. Because that all started with saying to staff, if I'm at that podium and they tell us we have $200,000, what should we use it for? We got a little list we can go down. So, and that's part of this right here. You know, Mr. Haywood asked me, Mr. Kemp asked me, so we give you $200,000, Steve, what should we use it for? I better do something more than fumble around and say, well, we'll get back to you. No, let me look right here on this list and tell you, we're going to do the water line at New Market for $50. We're going to do the stadium seats over here for $150, whatever it is. And we can roll on. That's the only way we can get y'all's trust. And I'm just so grateful for that plan and y'all's support on that. So the last piece I want to talk about, I want to talk a little bit. Any questions about 9-year plan, or the plan? I don't know what to call it. We're in year 10 now. I don't know what to call it. Just the plan. That works for me. I don't know. We might change it. Ms. Ward's she's not happy because she's thinking he's going to ask me to go back on there and change it again. And Dale's not asking. The leadership team decided when Dale gets certain looks on his face, he doesn't really like what we're talking about. So he's thinking, God, he's going to go in there and change that again tomorrow. Dale's looking down. Andrea's not looking at Dale. So Kathy, so they know Dale's getting I was thinking I'm gonna give him something else on the plan. Anything on the plan or the budget request? Because I got a little bit of time, I wanted to share some more information with you all. So, anything, so I'm gonna talk about capital outlay and capital projects, to close this out today. So, obviously, you're probably being asked, I'm being asked, and I just want you to know where we are. Our facilities, I think we have two phases of facility issues in this school system. One is to address our current state, and another one is to address our future state. Our existing needs, our growth needs. So, Mr. Allen, we talked, Mr. Fry, we talked some. So where do we go? If you ask me any day of the week, and you ask me what's the number one priority right now, we need a new Liberty Elementary School. We need to build a new Liberty Elementary. So the first thing I'm gonna mention are about our existing. So the first thing is Liberty Elementary. We need to build a new one. Second thing, we gotta go to the Randall High, Randall Middle campus and do something. Okay, and this is gonna affect the third thing. Do we build a new Randall Middle and make that whole campus Randall High? Well, probably that sounds good, but the other option sounds good too. Do we build another Randall High and keep rolling with Randall Middle and still use the stadiums for Randall High, those legendary stadiums, with all the tradition? And I'm talking about the baseball and the football and the softball. So something at Randall High, Randall Middle's campus is going to involve building a new school somewhere in Randall with the name Randall Middle, Randall High. Unless somebody, I would love that. That's number two. Number three is it's either 4 original high schools or 3 original high schools. Because if we build Randall High, we only have 3 original high schools left. And renovating those, that's step 3. With a second gym, like the 2 new high schools have, like Asheboro High School has. You don't build high schools, you know, those were built years ago. Obviously, when you build Wheatmore and Providence Grove, you build them with a second gym. But I'd like to see those schools renovated. Eastern, Southwest, Trinity High, and Randall's the wild card, whatever we do at Randall. And then the last one, which is not going to be very popular, but I just need to say it, because sometimes not saying the unpopular thing is not effective. Our school system can't continue to maintain buildings we're not going to use. We need, so I say this is step 4, because capital outlay, part of capital outlay involves sometimes dealing with buildings that have to be taken down. So I understand this might not be popular, but we're not using Braxton Craven, and it's still sitting on our responsibility. We need that land, by the way. We gotta have that land. We might have to build a ninth grade center there. But we've already, you know, when are we gonna have bigger issues than the water pipe in the middle busting, or when are we gonna have other issues that start happening by a school standing open? What do we do in Liberty what do we do in Liberty if we build a new Liberty?
How much are we paying to insure Braxton Craven right now?
I don't know, I didn't look. Our property insurance is about $398. I don't know what Braxton alone is. But, you know, you got liability issues there all the way around. We're only letting people use the parking lot for, obviously for Trinity High School athletics, but we've asked people asked to use our facility for training, and we're not letting that happen. We're not going in the building. The only people going in the building are Larry's guys if we have to go in for something. So there's 4 phases of our existing needs. Liberty Elementary. Some at Randall High, Randall Middle. Okay? Whatever we do there determines whether we renovate 4 high schools or 3. And whatever we renovate high school-wise involves building an extra gym somewhere on their sites. And then the last one, which is unpopular. And maybe the other ones will be unpopular. Maybe I'll hear they're unpopular, but at some point, there's going to have to be some hard decisions we've got to make. We're going to work some more. But the next thing is, what do we do with properties we're not going to use? And, it could easily be, we're talking Braxton now. It could easily be the Liberty Building next. What do we do if somebody doesn't want to do it, buy and maintain it, or whatever? So we got that. So we've got existing needs. And this is the one everybody wants to talk about out there, and I'm going to embrace this conversation because I don't want us to get behind. Because I know, I've lived being behind and knowing what, once you get behind, you can't catch up.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, okay. And this is the real world we hear. I guess like, when did Wheatmore Providence Grove, was that 2011?
2008.
2008. Okay, when we opened those 2 schools, the big thing out of the board, superintendent, before you came, commissioners, I'm not sure, we were talking, it was out there, but the community, residents of Randolph County were led to believe that yes, we're building 2 new high schools, but we weren't going to forget the 4 existing high schools. So here we are, kind of like Braxton Craven become a temporary fix, but 23 years later, Braxton Craven was still being used, okay? So we finally fixed Trinity Hill, but you have a group of people, and they see Wheatmore, they see which is great, the new middle school, Providence Grove, and they can ride by Asheboro High School, and God knows I've heard when they ride by there what that facility looks like, and believe me, I've heard the theory, I don't know, I've heard the thing, well, by God, if they put a Megatron, it looks like we could work on our Eastern Randolph. You know what, you hear that. That's the real world, that's what's out there. And as board members, maybe it's because I've been here the longest, I get it, Toyota's coming, you know what, we can't stop that. Great, you know what, I hope it all works out, maybe, I'm sure it's gonna be great, a lot of jobs. Will they take some of our employees without thinking about it? Probably so. Take your employees, might take one of your lead, yeah. And will they play fair about it? Probably not, it's business. But you know what, we owe it still to our people that's lived in Randolph County for years, Eastern Randolph, whether it's Southwest or something. Like one of the things we talked about, well, Wheatmore, Trinity does have an auxiliary gym basically at Braxton, but you talked about something we did, but nothing's ever happened. Yes, we spend our money maintaining them, which is great, we've done a great job. But there's going to come a time, whether it be on all of us together, are going to have to address, we look at Liberty. Now, I'm not sure how far down the road that is. It may be, yeah, we need the land, but it certainly don't take too long to build an elementary school. But they won't make any more land. But I think even with a lot of the growth toward the east, you've got to look at doing something with them old high schools, maybe sooner than you owe it to them. We didn't know Toyota was going to even come when we were promising that. But for me, it's hard for me to forget about a promise that I was a part of making. And in all due respect, I hate to move it down the ladder too far. It's just, I get hit with that a lot because, I was on here longer. And, do you guys hear it from your community? Tell me, do you hear that?
Yeah.
I know that
prior to and everything else, just like Gary's talking about, and I didn't miss a forum that they had when they were in the process of building the two new high schools. And I didn't jot it down, but I could tell you everything they promised us, and it hadn't been touched. And, that was the selling point.
That was a big
That was
selling
the
point.
selling point to get Wheatmore and Providence Grove built. And Randleman, Trinity, Eastern Randolph, probably Southwest Randolph, all those promises, I haven't seen one yet.
See, there was a time Southwest Randolph was the next school to be, you know, that's completely, which, you know, but I'm just saying, somewhere along the way, when we promise a community, or you promise the stakeholders, I mean, you know, my loyalty, yes, I'm glad somebody's coming at times, sometimes I don't know how I feel. But, I guess growth's good. But also, my loyalty is to the people that call Randolph County home, when maybe all the bells and whistles and, you know, you had to get out on the farmland to work, you know, those people, they made Randolph County. The people now is coming in, cash in on Randolph County. So you can't forget those people. That's just my opinion.
Well, and that's why I think, Mr. Cook, to your point, we've got some existing issues we need to address before this next wave comes, which is the second phase of this, which is, you know, when I look at that, this one right here, there's three big areas right on this future needs. One of them is, we're gonna have to figure out, and I've talked to Mr. Fry, Mr. Allen about this, and talked to you about this as well, Mr. Cook. We're gonna need some staff dedicated to what's the future needs. And what I'm talking about that is, what do we do, Mr. Lanier? We talked about student assignment lines. You know, we can't just have a one-stop work session about that, or 3 or 4 staff members days are already filled up with all these tasks, say, well, we need to stop what we're doing for 3 or 4 days and let's hash this out. Now, that's gonna be weeks and months, and so there's a staffing need for our future needs, and it's a staffing need in the area of growth management / student assignment. And we're gonna need to put together a team for that next wave. Again, not this as much as that future wave of, we're gonna need to put together a team that's their focus. One of which is gonna have to be somebody who focuses on real estate. I mean, I know that's gonna, I know that sounds odd, but I can't just call leadership team members and what their expertise is and what there is. It may not be in real estate. And say, I need you to go out and work with realtors on this, and we've got 500 other things going on. So that's going to be an issue. Another issue is there are groups out there, I'm just going to put contracting, there's groups out there, and we've already explored some of this. There are groups that study the population, that will help us identify where the nodes are. They will help us work with municipalities and with county government, because it's going to be different. We might go one place in the county, have to go to the municipality office to get the projected developments that are coming, or the approved ones. And then we might go to the county office, the county government office for some other areas. We're going to have to be able to identify what's been approved and what's on the radar to be approved. And there are groups that do this for a living, and we're going to need to engage with somebody to help us, because they know the questions to ask and their expertise here. Like, is there a formula for a development that, do they have formulas? And they do, I know they do. They've got to have some projection. How many school-age kids are coming out of this development? I mean, we're not experiencing this for the first time, and no other school system has. There are groups that do this. And then lastly, the last phase of this is school sites. And I said this November 20th, and I said it the other day at Fox 8. It's a risk to buy school sites before we're getting ready to build a school. It's also a risk not to buy school sites before we're ready to build that school. I know a school system right now at the whole western end of their county. They're at the point now, I've been told, the growth will have to be dealt with modular units, because there's no more land to be bought. And quite frankly, they've been behind, in my opinion, for 30 years. And this is a piece, when this kicks off, I'm not, right now, I think probably in the next 6 months, we're looking at this. This is our priority right here, these existing needs and our firm plan that I'll be working with our board and our staff to firm this up and bring something more formal to you. Yes,
You
sir.
mentioned on existing, specifically you referred to the auxiliary gyms, but has the 9-year plan kept those older buildings pretty much
Oh,
up to
yeah.
date and
If we hadn't had that,
not a lot of work to be done to the, like in Trinity's case, the school that opened in 1966.
well, when you go renovate, we will need to get some direction from, and some ideas on renovation. It's gonna be more than, I think it's gonna need to be a pretty extensive renovations. But, to bring it up to more of a modern point as far as what compared to maybe a new school being built. But you're at your question about the 9-year plan or the facility plan, whatever we want to call it now. Oh yeah, if we hadn't had that, we'd have serious roof issues, we'd have window issues, door issues. We'd be so far behind in HVAC now, it wouldn't even be. we'd be-
How about IT, about technology?
Well, here's the struggle with technology. This is my struggle with it. So you tell me this, somebody explain this to me. I just said this to the leadership team today. I think I gave y'all this number. You know what that number represents? I know you don't, I'm just throwing a rhetorical question. That's the amount of money the state of North Carolina gave us in 09-10 for technology. We get two types of technology from the state technology money and state connectivity money. That's what it was last year. Right now, we've only received $189,000 this year so far. We've only got our state technology money, not our state connectivity. So, are we keeping up with technology? Yes, because we have a great staff. We buy, right now, we have, 17,798 Chromebooks as of December. The first ones to go out are in 2026. We've got them phased. The staff is very skilled in phasing them so they don't all roll out of warranty at one time. But are we where we need to be? Has ESSER helped us tremendously? Yes, because staff has taken the ESSER money and spread it out and planned it. But again, that money has come off the books. ESSER 1, each of the last two Septembers has come off the books, 1 and 2. So the third amount of ESSER money will go away this coming September. So I would tell you any day of the week, Mr. Fry, EC, transportation, and technology are major funding areas. And what's interesting is, I was talking about these same three issues with the state budget in 13-14 school year. So this is a major concern, and how we adjust to technology once a lot of the extra money goes away. But luckily, staff understands and has planned it out and spread it out. So we pay, I think this was the figure, last figure I saw, we pay that for wireless connectivity alone. That eats up almost all of our state connectivity money. So technology will be a struggle because, as you know, technology changes so quick. We're not gonna buy something that's gonna last, I mean, after 3 years, we're on borrowed time. Can we find the parts? And if we can we even afford it when we find the parts? So, technology will always be a struggle, but this one, somebody's got to explain to me. This is 09-10. How in the world are we that far below all these years later? That doesn't even make sense.
With regards to the existing high schools, are there technology improvements that need to be in there with the auxiliary gym or the ADA renovations? It's not just the gym, I guess what the chairman is trying to get to. What is it that needs to happen at the?
Well, we'll have to, I mean, we've not put anything out officially. What does the renovation of those schools look like? We haven't had any suggestions or any proposals, so we'll have to, but I'm sure there's gonna be some ADA things that maybe when you renovate certain amounts of school, there's an ADA issue pop up, just like we've seen, I think, saw down the road in the other school system. I think there was some ADA things there too.
Can
I
ask you a
was,
question
the
on
reason
that?
I mentioned that was just such a big elephant that's been in, just because I've been here a while, where people that throughout the county, they always throw that back, and I was just gonna put it out there, because that is an issue with a lot of people. I mean, if you know, Darryl, with Trinity High School, I'm sure you've heard it. Mike, Eastern,
To answer
you
your
live
question,
it, Brandon,
on,
you know that.
I'll go back, we discussed it, it's ironic that we discussed it this past week, and for renovations and what's needed. When Trinity was built, you walked in a classroom, turned on a light bulb. And now you walk in a classroom and there's 30 calculators being charged, there's a smart board hanging on the wall, and there's 25 or 30 laptops in there, and some of them need charging. So in one particular room where you used to turn on a light bulb, you've got technology that's overflowing out of that one room. And now you've got 30 rooms that you've got to bring into what I would call the 21st century. And that's not just the Trinity, I'm sure, but I think when renovations start.
We have kept up in that area.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
It's not-
everything's there, but you're trying to power a classroom that technically had a light switch and 3 receptacles. And,
I just think you get to a point where you have kids like, when they ride by one school and they look, or like the doings up our way or whatever, and you know, like, we'll use them to get away from Providence. If you go to Eastern Providence, you know, you ride by Providence, oh, my kids are out there, they're playing tennis, you know, but some of the things they have that Eastern don't have, or still don't, you know, that makes you think, you know, hey, they got this. Yes, it does need to be a plan, but I just think that needs to, I don't want to forget those existing high schools while we're trying to plan on building for the future to make room for somebody else to move to Randolph County, and don't forget who's been living here all their life.
Years, that's never.
Yes.
Just the little things.
Yes, I don't want to forget those people. That's where I'm at.
Let's not forget though that it's not like nothing has been done through schools.
No,
I mean, you obviously there's, as far as just in the stadiums, there's visitor stadium sizes that are bigger than some
I
of the home sizes
I
of the
get
new
it.
schools.
Yes.
So we don't want to put out there that,
No,
oh,
I'm not
we've
meaning
done
it like
nothing
that.
for
I'm
those
not
schools.
meaning it that way.
We built cooking labs, we built, I mean, there's
Yes.
lots of things at all those schools. And then the other thing, as far as to build whatever you're looking at, 3 or 4, and you've mentioned gymnasiums a couple of times. I mean, you're gonna also have to deal with, if you don't build 4 at one time, you're gonna build with whichever one you build first, and the other 3 are gonna be complaining about that. So it's, you know, that's for someone else to answer that question, not me, but I'm just, I mean, that is gonna be an issue.
Group 2,
Eventually,
there's a group 2 we talk about.
And I
them
think
gyms.
to Fred's point at the top, we haven't ignored those 4 other
No.
schools while this has been going on.
I didn't mean it that way. I just
We've
saying.
kept up with technology, we've kept up with roofs and doors, I see on your plan. So
but it's not,
We didn't just wave them off.
but it's not a new school.
No, it's not a new
And
school.
sometimes those things don't get noticed as much as the new school.
And honestly, I don't think.
I'm saying, we just don't want to put it out there like it's.
This is not a new problem. I mean, you go back probably to the fifties and sixties with consolidation, when
Oh, yeah.
Liberty and Staley and went into Eastern and Southwest, you know,
Yeah.
it's always been a problem, and I don't think it's gonna go away. It's just a matter of how you decide to deal with it.
And I hope you guys don't understand, I didn't mean it like you left it sitting out there. I mean, I know all of this stuff that's happening. It's not sitting out there with grass around it. And, I mean, I get it. I know all the stuff that's happening. I'm just
I
saying.
remember, there was a Farmer High School, there was a Grace Chapel High School. We had high school on everywhere.
Well, our board members, commissioners, that's all I have for you. What I promise you is we're not gonna bring you anything we don't need, and we're gonna be transparent with you at all times, and we're gonna use whatever you give us wisely at all times. So, I appreciate you coming today. We're gonna, if there are no more questions, we'll move and get ready for our board meeting, but, and as you have questions, call me, and, we'll be working with our board as well as we move through some of the future issues, especially with capital outlay projects.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.